Hello, everyone. Welcome to we don't know what to call this podcast yet, but I'm here with my good friend Gabe from several of the Couples Plays episodes where myself and Mel usually take on Gabe and Sylvie. Say hi.
I'm back, baby.
So, Gabe came up to me a few weeks ago and he's just like, man, I just want to sit down and talk about Star Trek. And I'm like, you know what? Me too. And he's like, I want to do some of my podcast. So, that's what we're doing. We're talking Trek, which I love to do. And actually, funny thing, I did talk about this with people at work because our systems went down, so we couldn't do anything. So then we just started talking. One of the things that came up, actually, and I know you wanted to bring it in, even though it's not Star Trek related, the Star Wars Episode 7 trailer came out. And because it's being directed by J.J. Abrams, who did the 2 reboot movies the past years, we got to talking that, and then it kind of drifted into Star Trek. And someone said something that I thought was blasphemy. He's like, I didn't like Wrath of Khan.
What?
Yeah.
No.
At first, and then he starts talking about Into Darkness. I was like, okay, you're talking about Into Darkness. And then I kind of left it alone. And then I came back to him and was like, just to be clear, you were talking about Into Darkness, right? When you said I hate Wrath of Khan. He's like, no, I didn't like Wrath of Khan. I'm like, Wrath of Khan is glorious. It's
There would be no Into Darkness without Wrath of Khan.
Exactly. What would Abrams and the writers rip off? or switch? Because it's Kirk instead of Spock that's doing the ship out of danger. Yes.
So does that mean like 30 years they're gonna remake these movies and Spock's gonna be the fat one and Scotty's gonna be super skinny?
He already is. But also what didn't get me about Into Darkness is like, why did Leonard Nimoy dye his hair black? He's just like, at this point, old Spock, who is now part of this new timeline, is got to be in his 153 or like 200 range. Vulcans live long. Yeah. Like he went through the original series and then TNG, and then well past Nemesis, if we're to believe, because this deals after Federation makes peace with Romulans. Like, he's just like, alright, I'm here trying to rebuild the Vulcan people. Oh, might as well dye my hair black.
Hey, man. You know what they say, 150 is the new 30. And, hey, let's face it, old Spock, he's got to hit the dating market, you'd be lonely in another universe. I'm just saying.
We also came up with the theory, too, is that now that Vulcan's destroyed, Tuvok cannot exist. Which means Voyager cannot go to the Delta Quadrant, and we can never meet Neelix. So, it's a win-win.
Or the Neelix-Tuvok's hybrid nightmare baby.
Tuvix.
Tuvix.
Well, I got something to say about that episode, but I knew we were going to get off topic right away, but I think we're going to start with this, maybe annual, but maybe this canonical podcast. Whenever we decide to get together, throw a microphone on, and be like, oh, let's talk about Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll get the logistics, the beginnings out of the way. So, how did you get into Star Trek in the first place?
Star Trek, actually, my mom and dad used to watch it all the time when I was a little kid, back when TNG was airing regularly. And believe it or not, I learned a lot of things about, because I grew up speaking French, I learned a lot of my English from Star Trek. Oh. I found the character kind of... Actually, here's the thing. The name Picard was actually the name of one of my grandma's neighbors. So I was like, oh, cool. So I was like, it's like, in my head I came up with a bunch of stupid theories, because when you're 6, you don't have a thought process of an adult. So it's like, hey, your great grandson is the captain of the Enterprise. That's so cool. He's like, what?
It's like, yeah, that's the same. I know that mentality because when I first got into school, there was a first grade teacher. Her name was Ms. Bateman. But, silly me, after seeing Tim Burton's Batman, I covered my finger over the E. It's like, oh my god, my teacher's Batman. Welcome, children. I am the knight. Yeah.
Learn the alphabet.
For me, though, Star Trek came with TNG. My dad used to watch all the time. But the thing is that I never really could get into it because, here's the thing. Back where I lived up close to the mountains. So it's very, very, very rural. Couldn't get cable. My parents got satellite as soon as I moved out. I swear, I moved out for college. 2 weeks later, I come home to do laundry, have supper, whatever. Satellite TV. I'm like, the fuck was this when I was growing up? I could have been much cooler in school than I was before.
Well, they didn't have. They don't have to feed you now. They have the income for satellite.
But yeah, so not Voyager. Next Generation was airing on a channel. In Canada, originally it was called MITV, and then it got changed to Global. Yeah. So it was airing on that. That was one of the channels we couldn't get over the air, like analog signal. For analog signal, we could get only 2 channels. ATV, which was CTV, which is one of the main Canadian channels, and CBC, which is the other one. And then Global was like the third one. But we had to get it by getting like a hoop antenna, nailing it to a certain part of the wall. And like on a good day, it was clear, and on a bad day, it was just unwatchable. So most of the time, my dad would try to watch the scrambled signal, and I couldn't get into it. I never really got into Star Trek myself until they actually put it on the Clear channel, the ATV. So Saturday nights were Trek night. Next Gen was over. It was done with. And we watched Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Voyager was starting up right afterwards. So I just started watching Deep Space Nine. My dad tried to, it was on the other channel too, so my dad tried watching that, and he was just like, I'm not into that. And rightfully so, because going back and marathoning those a couple of years ago, the first couple of seasons of Deep Space Nine are really hard to get into. I mean, borderline, you could fall asleep to them. Oh, yeah. But third season is picked up because third season, that's when they get the Defiant. It's got the Romulan cloaking device on it, and this is when we start learning more about the Dominion. Oh, yeah. And then I started watching Voyager, which, according to a lot of Trek fans or a lot of old school sci-fi fans, Voyager is one of their most hated series. I don't know, and I never understood why. I like the concept. You're hurled, halfway across the galaxy, and you gotta get your way back home, but you're so far away that it could take you 75 years if you don't stop.
I'm okay with Voyager, to be completely honest. I mean, I don't love the series to death, but, I mean, it's still Trek. I mean, they're all wearing the same uniforms, they're spouting off the same jargon, but I found what was a little bit more refreshing was that they went back to the exploring concept that they had to drop in DS9. Yeah,
because in DS9 they're on a space station, but they were next to a wormhole, so they could go exploring. But then as you come find out in the later seasons, there's this warrior race that occupies that space. This is the thing that always gets me about Deep Space Nine. Jem'Hadar he comes through the wormhole, beams aboard the station, and says, listen, you're invading our territory. You have tried to make colonies in our space. We fixed that. We killed everyone that's on there. Stay the fuck away from our space, and we're cool. If I had been Cisco, I would have been like, okay, cool. Okay, no, we won't come through. Okay, a couple photon torpedoes, let's destroy that thing. Bajoran's like, what about our gods? I'm like, these people are corporeal figure. They're actual people that are going to come in and kill us. Fuck them. Fire the torpedoes. If they want to deal with us, they got 70 years to travel from the Gamma Quadrant to the Alpha Quadrant. Done. Series over. But no, he had to be like, no, we're a place of exploration. Even if that means we will be brutally murdered if we're going through that wormhole.
Yeah, went all conquistador on their asses.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I take it if you were Janeway, I think your first train of thought would be, fuck the Ocampa.
Well, he only got 7 years.
Yeah, it's just, fuck him.
What a shitty lifespan for a species.
7 years.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, caretaker, activate the array, we're ready to go back.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
but then
what are they gonna do?
They're like, what happens to the Ocampa after we're gone? It's like, she follows the what were they called? The tri-cobalt devices. And she only had 2 of them. It's like they have a complement of 38 photon torpedoes and 2 tri-cobalt devices, and that's what blows up the station. I'm just like, you couldn't have beamed those onto the ship and be like, okay, set them for like 5 minutes, and make sure that the Kazon, they're pretty stupid. They're not going to figure out how to defuse it.
No.
They marvel at water. It's like, we can make water out of thin air. I don't think your average Kazon could be like, oh, geez, red wire or blue wire. And if they pick the wrong one, then that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you could have blown up the station after you left. But anyway, that's
Voyager.
That's Voyager for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I got into it. And unfortunately, I did fall off of it because they switched stations and went to a station that we no longer got it. So I think by season 5... Yeah, season 5 is when they switched to the other station, and I couldn't get it. So I kind of fell off on it and didn't watch it until later on. I got a funny story, though, about Voyager. And I've told this on a Couples Play before. I think it's one of the Justice League Heroes episodes. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell it again here because it's more relevant. So I was in college, and I was like, when you get to college, the funny thing is, it's like, the way that school, I think, works for everyone is like, you go through elementary school, you know, everyone loves everything, and then when junior high, everyone starts to mature and just be like, oh, I can't love these things. Wait, you love those things? I'm going to start beating you up now because you love those things. And then you have to kind of repress everything like that from high school. You got to, you know, either sell your toys in yard sales or whatnot. But when you get to college, had you kept on to all that shit, and be like, oh, man, I remember all this. Like, I remember going to a party, and Buddy had, like, a massive Transformer collection. And he had, like, the robots in disguise stuff that was still in Japan. He was importing that, and I was just like, damn it, man, that's cool. He had them all nice and displayed and all that, and, you know, what I have now as an adult. Anyways, that year, we went, I was living with a bunch of people in a house. By the way, terrible idea, never do it. Try to live on your own as much as possible.
Yeah.
Roommates may sound like a good idea, but, you know, you're going to be fighting all the time to do shit. So, we were holding a party, like this big party. We actually were handing out flyers. It's like, we got a big house, lots of space. You want to come party? You want to drink? You want to dance? You want to play Smash until like 4 in the morning until your inflatable chairs deflate? Come over to our house. It's awesome. So I was talking to a guy that was in my class, and I'm like, hey, you coming over? He's like, oh, I'll be over after 9. I'm watching the finale of Voyager. I'm like, watching the finale of Voyager? Like, we're in college. Can't you watch that later? He's like, no, I don't watch it live. And I'm like, okay. I remember this is back in 2000. Back in 2000 when we didn't have.
Didn't Voyager wrap up in 2001?
Sorry, 2001. Yeah, because it was the summer. Yeah. Yep. So I was like, and there was like no social media or anything for people to discuss this. I mean, you had message boards, but back then, like, it was a marvel for us to get 2 meg download.
Yeah,
when we were.
I remember that.
And it's actually no, I think it was like 700 kilobytes. I don't remember. We were amazed by that. Anyways, so. We're talking about it, so it's like, everybody was like, where's Carlos? I was like, oh, he's watching Voyager, and one of his roommates was there, and he's just like, yeah, you want to know the really sad thing about that is, not only is he missing a party, he turned down a date to watch Voyager. Wow. You turned down potential sex with a woman for Voyager.
Jesus.
I mean, the finale was pretty cool. I like the Voyager finale, but still, sex with a woman over Voyager, choose sex. You can always go back to Voyager. You can't always go back to sex.
It's called buying the damn series on VHS. Well, back then VHS was cheaper than DVD.
That's the thing too, because like I go to some pawn shops and I find VHS cassettes of episodes, and they're in these like really hard clamshell cases. And I remember this was shit you had to order off the television.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because they'd be it's like, oh, you want to buy Encounter at Farpoint? Well, for $14.95 plus shipping and handling, you can have your Visa and MasterCard ready. Like now, it's just like, yeah, I want season 1 of Next Gen DVD or Blu-ray. I'm like, oh, Blu-ray it just looks better and it's got more exclusive shit on it. Yeah, sure.
Or watch it for like $8 a month on Netflix if it pops up, maybe.
Or
actually, DS9 is on Netflix right now.
In Canada or US?
Canada.
It's on Canada one?
Yeah.
Shit, yeah. Well, hey, Next Gen and DS9 now on Netflix.
Yeah.
If you get US Netflix, which you can put in a US DNS in any console or your modem to trick it into thinking it's in the US, you got every single Star Trek series.
What? What do you mean technical wizardry? It's not like we're talking to people who are really into tech. Star Trek people into tech.
Yeah, that's how I got... Me and Melanie, we marathoned all of Voyager that way.
You didn't play the drinking game, I hope.
What drink? There's a drinking game?
Drink every time they waste a torpedo.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's something we're going to bring up later on. Because I'm going to link it down in the description for anyone that's watching this on YouTube. But I think we went to one topic already that's like favorite series. I've already said Voyager's my favorite by far. Close second DS9. TNG, I haven't really given an honest like marathon viewing. The first season, after Encounter at Farpoint, kind of really hard to get into. But I'm trying. I'm gonna go back to it eventually.
No, me, it's definitely Next Generation because it was. Here's a cool thing. When I was a kid, we had like my first cat. And basically what the cat would do, it was just perch up on the couch and watch the show with us. Like, the cat was actually looking at the TV, watching the show with us.
Did you name it Spot?
Well, I don't think they introduced Spot by the time we still had the cat, but it was eerily the same color. Like that caramel, yellow-white kind of mix.
Wow.
Yeah. My cat's a Trekkie. Yeah. My old cat's a Trekkie.
How would you rank... the other series. I'm gonna just go back real quick.
Yeah.
So mine would go in order of Voyager, DS9, Enterprise, TNG. Just because I haven't given TNG a full watch. I mean, there are a lot of episodes in TNG that are really good.
Oh yeah.
But because I never really gave it the honest, like sit down and watch everything, I can't really rank it as high. Original series is always in the bottom because. Here's the thing with me. I'm sure original series was great back in the 60s when everyone was watching it, but I can't get into 60s television. I can't, just the way that it's shot. It's just like, it's every series I've watched like that. It's like, it's Batman, it's, God, I can't think of other, like Green Hornet and stuff like that. Just like the way that it's framed, I just can't get into it. It just all looks the same.
Oh yeah, the way they had to because they all worked on sound stages, so they couldn't really move the camera around as much as they can now.
Yeah. Well, for you, for favorite series, where do you rank yours?
I'm
okay. Well, we said TNG's at top.
Oh yeah, TNG obviously. Actually, I'm actually kind of fond of the original series because it is so cheesy. I can't help but giggle and laugh and just love it. And another reason is that they actually shot an episode in Toronto. That was really cool. They went back in time. There was a
time.
Yeah. Well,
4 times the Enterprise always went back in time, and 4 times it almost didn't make it.
Well, they went.
I love that South Park episode.
Anyway, they went back in time, and it was the Edith Keeler episode. It was a protester for the Cold War, and basically she got her voice heard and did the whole nuclear dismantling, and it just got the world out of whack. So they actually had to. It's actually a pretty intense episode. She was destined to die, but one of the crew of the Enterprise saved her. So it was like, do we kill her to save the world, or do we save a human life because it's morally correct? It was really intense for like the 60s, like goofy green skin chicks, Vulcan battles to the death with those weird guillotine sticks.
Yeah.
For that era, it was a really heavy episode.
I will say the first episode of the original series I ever watched was Amok Time, which is the goofy sticks and the dun 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 dun. The funny thing is that the first time I ever heard that music and that reference was The Cable Guy with Jim Carrey and Matthew Broderick.
I know.
Because then they did the medieval nice thing. It's like, this is Star Trek, and then Jim Carrey's doing that. And then I watched that, I was just like, I'm watching Cable Guy right now. But that was the first one I watched, and that's when I learned about Pung Far and the will to mate every 7 years, or kill, or ritual death, or meditation.
Well, yeah, so it goes Next Gen. The original series I'm definitely going to rank high up there. You know me, I don't like to put numbers to things I like, but anyway, the original series I really liked. I tried getting into DS9, but I was just like into other stuff at the time, and I didn't really get a chance to get into it. Like you said, the first 2 seasons were like a little dry.
If I were to spoil the first 2 seasons, I'm just like, lots of boring religious Bajoran crap. Jim Hadar show up, start of season 3, they get the Defiant. Do you know the original purpose of the Defiant? It was built to combat the Borg.
Oh, yeah.
Because after Wolf 359, for the beginning of the series, that's where Cisco lost his wife and almost lost his son. Was Locutus just wrecking shit on everyone. So, since that time in DS9, Starfleet has been developing this ship to combat the Borg. And they need something a little bit more firepower. I mean, it's not their place to really be a combat-heavy federation, because they're all about exploration and peace and, uncharting new territory. But sometimes you go to that territory and there's, robots with things that will make you into a robot, and they want the whole world to be robots. Or the whole galaxy to be robots. So, yeah, you need to resist against that. So, there's that. Okay, so I got on here. Oh, okay, so you got TNG original.
DS9. I have to watch more of it to really give it a fair shake. But like I said, every time I see a clip of the space combat of that show, it's just, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Because, we'll talk about the space combat a little later.
Yeah.
Actually, Enterprise, I tried giving a chance. Because I really like the lead, Captain Archer. I thought it was all right. Yeah. I think he did a good job.
I like the cast in that show was really, really well done. I mean, you got the quirky alien in Dr. Phlox. He's the one that's kind of around this. Just like, I've seen more shit than you guys have. Like, you may have seen Vulcans, which are like you, but got pointy ears and green blood. And then everything gets turned upside down when you meet a Klingon. Like, you couldn't even pronounce the name right. It's like, it's a Klingnot. Klingon. And you're lucky we're here. Fucking birds of prey would be raining down on your shit right now. Then what?
Yep.
And then obviously you probably got Voyager down at the bottom, underneath Enterprise.
Not at the bitty bottom. I've watched more Voyager actually. Actually, it came on after my shift at work when I used to work night shifts at a manufacturing plant. I actually caught a few episodes that were really cool. I really like the Q episodes.
Oh yeah, John DeLance is. Because, like, he's still maniacal and sometimes quirky in the Next Gen episodes, but in Voyager, it's just all quirky.
Oh,
that's the Q I love.
Like,
he's just like, yeah, I'm a god. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, I love the Q episodes of Voyager. I caught a couple of those, and it's like, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Voyager is definitely up there, but not, like, at the tippy top.
Yeah.
TNG will always be the tippy top for me.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about one thing that actually kind of revitalized the series at midpoint when they canceled the original and went to TNG. The movies. What was the first one that you saw out of the? Okay, we're gonna count all 12. That's including the Abrams one. Well, obviously we didn't see the Abrams ones first, but we'll talk about the movies. And what was the first one that you saw in theater?
In theater, believe it or not, none.
You've never seen a Star Trek in theaters?
No, because either I didn't know about it, or I was just I was either too young to know about it, because my parents were really picky about the movies they wanted. They would take me, because that means they would have to watch it. So, which is a little weird, because my dad was really into Star Trek, but we rented them a lot. We rented a lot of movies. So the first one I saw, technically, in the theaters would be the Abrams Star Trek, but the first one I saw, like, as a kid was not the First Contact. There we go.
Oh, First Contact.
First Contact. That was such a blast to watch. I remember that. I loved every minute of it, because it was like it was almost like our generation's Wrath of Khan. A little bit. I don't want to shit around Wrath of Khan at all. Like, the movie's awesome, but I feel like that one was more for its generation, and like this one was more for our generation, because it featured a lot of the same themes, like that Moby Dick obsession and loss, and it felt a lot. It dealt with a lot of the same themes. So I feel like it was almost like Wrath of Khan tailor-made for our generation, or the next gen crew.
Yeah. That one, even though I'm not like the world's biggest TNG fan, but I love the TNG movies. That was actually the first one we saw in theaters. My dad took me and my brother to go see that.
Cool.
And that's when we're just starting to get into it. And this is something that, like the boys of the group can get into. Because Mom didn't really like Star Trek, neither did Amy. But we went and saw this, and we were already big into everything else. And so much of that movie I love. And I'll go through them real quick. The fact that the Defiant's in it. And that's the way to get Worf back onto the Enterprise. Because at this point, he's on DS9. Because they got the gray outfits and all that. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that always bugged me, though, is just like, okay, there's a cube heading towards Earth. They're going to mobilize the fleet. The Defiant's there, but where the hell is Cisco? Where's Bashir? Where's Odo? Where's Dax? It's just Worf. It's like, Commander Worf, we need to man the station. You take the Defiant to Earth. It's like, wait, you're not coming with me? It's like, did you just hear me? I'm giving you command of the ship. Oh, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not complaining.
It was ripped with cameos, but I didn't mind that. I mean, one hilarious scene is at the point where they're back in the past. They're back for the first contact, and Borg had beamed onto the ship, and they're tearing down the sickbay doors.
Yeah.
And so Crusher's trying to get everyone out, and then she's like, "Wait, is the EMH still online?" Yeah. I'm like, "Wait, no, they can't." And she's like, "Computer, activate the EMH." And there's Robert Picardo. I'm like, "Oh my god, it's the Doctor!" Not Voyager's Doctor, but it's still a Doctor.
Oh yeah.
And he's just so nonchalant about everything. She's just like, "There's Borg coming down the doors. We need some time to get away. Make a distraction. Make a distraction." He's like, "This isn't part of my programming. I'm a Doctor, not a doorstop." And then when they do the holodeck scene, Ethan Phillips, who does Neelix on Voyager, he was like the bellhop. Holding them. And unbeknownst to me, because we hadn't started watching that series yet, or not heavily, I never noticed, but Donna's father from that 70s show is in the holodeck. The one with the metal nose.
Oh, that was, yeah, dude.
Yeah, it was Bob Pizziotti.
Yeah, Bob.
it's like, yeah, me and Midge are separated. You can't stay here, Bob. I thought that was pretty sweet. And that was like the first one we saw in theaters. The first one I watched on tape was Generations. Mm-hmm. The one with Captain Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off as the Enterprise B captain.
Now I'm picturing like this hilarious like Star Trek spoof of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where it's like, instead of the Ferrari, it's the Enterprise.
No. There's a scene that, when the ships are in the ribbon, right, and one of them gets blown up. And like he's like defeated, and he doesn't know what to do. I'm just waiting for like this. I'm waiting for William Shatner to like deadpan go to the audience and breaking the fourth wall. It's like, this is where Commander Harrington loses it, and then it zooms out and it starts zooming out the galaxy. Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Generations. I found it was an alright movie. The only problem I had with it is that it felt too much like a 2-hour episode. It didn't feel like a movie.
Well,
it felt like this was the true series finale to Star Trek Next Generation, and a way to kind of cap off the original series too.
I mean,
because there's that part where Picard convinces Kirk to leave the Nexus and go fight Sauron, Malcolm McDowell. I'm trying to think of another name for him. Picard and Kirk go fight Caligula. There we go. They go fight Caligula. But when they leave, they start recapping it, and it feels like one of those, like, last time on Star Trek, The Next Generation. And it's that recap. And then when it cuts to the new scene, I'm waiting for, like, the computer to be like, and now the conclusion. Like they used to do back in the day.
I didn't get that vibe, but now that you lay it out like that, is like, yeah, it really had that.
Whenever you get a chance, go back and watch that. Mm. Look at the pacing. It feels like an episode. It doesn't feel like a movie.
Speaking of it's weird you tell me that there's a movie that feels like an episode, because there's an episode of TNG that feels like a movie.
Best of both worlds.
Well, yeah. It was. I remember this. This is actually sticking on my mind like a sore thumb, because it was why I fell in love with Star Trek like hard when I was a kid. To the point where I bought a Picard action figure. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It was the episode where Data's brother, Lore, got control of a group of Borg.
Yeah.
And they were in like a building that looked a hell of a lot like the command center in the Power Rangers.
I'm trying to remember. I remember...
You know that scene where he lifts up his fingernails and he has like microchips and shit?
Yeah.
That grossed me the fuck out. I was like... Ah!
No, what grossed me out about that episode is when he's going to work on Geordi, he's like pulling out like white stuff. I'm like, what the fuck is that he's pulling out of his head? I thought he was like inserting stuff like it was like, like acupuncture needles. Yeah. But no, he's pulling it out. I'm like, what the fuck are you pulling out? That was a weird one too, because there was this Borg ship that doesn't look like a Borg ship. It's like, it kind of looks like a Tetris piece. Because it's like, it's got like this weird like octagonal base, and then it like splits off into two other parts. And this was like the first time I ever saw, I'm up at the table, the first time I ever saw Crusher, Beverly Crusher, take command of the ship. Because everyone else was down on the planet.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. And, like, there was, like, a helmsman that was just like, it's my first day on the job, I don't know what to do. And she's like, take us into the sun. It's like, we can't do that. It's like, I am giving you a direct order. Take us into the sun. I'm like, we're all gonna die. It always seems like whenever anyone else besides Picard and Riker are in command, everyone else questions their orders.
Again, I'm gonna reference Ferris Bueller again. It's like, it's almost like someone taking... anyone but Cameron's dad going into Cameron's dad's Ferrari. Yeah. They joyride the fuck out of it. Yeah. Because, Picard's the only one's got to be careful with the ship. But everyone else is just, like, punching it, punching the gas and just flooring it.
Alright, we're still on, I think we're still kind of on movies. We talked about the first movie. Well, okay, we basically, because of our generation, our first movies were the Next Generation ones. What was the first original movie? We're talking about 1 through 6. What was the first one of those that you watched?
I think it was... Believe it or not, I think it was either... Yeah, it was the one with the whales.
That was mine too! Oh my god! That was mine too! Okay, because what happened was that the first time I ever saw it, we were at my favorite pawn shop. I talk about it immensely. Polar Pawn. This is when they still had VHSs. I saw 4 there, and I was like, "Oh, it's a Star Trek movie, and it's got the original cast in it." I'm like, "I wonder if this like let's just pick this up." It was like $3 or something. So I watched that, and I was just like, "This is kind of neat." The only thing I picked up though, not being a big original series fan, is I actually played the SNES game. Star Trek Starfleet Academy, and they had actual sound effects from the television show, or from that movie. Mainly the stuff that, the sound effects of the button presses for the Bird of Prey. And then I immediately recognized that. But yeah, Voyage Home, Nimoy's directorial... Oh no, he directed 3, didn't he? Yeah, he directed 3 and 4.
Yeah, 3 and 4.
So, yeah, 4 was the first one I saw.
Shatner did 5.
Yeah. Shatner did 5. Yeah, but like...
That's a podcast on its own.
Yeah.
5 is just going to be its own thing.
But yeah, 4... not knowing that was part of a quote-unquote trilogy, because it went 2, 3, 4... I thought it was pretty neat, and I kind of was like, "Oh, what happened to them? Why are they on Vulcan? Why is Spock doing these mental things? Why can he not remember who he kind of was before? Who's this Vulcan chick that's leaving now? And then why are they going back in time? Oh yeah, this giant turd's coming towards Earth to suck up all their water because there's no whales left in the world."
If you thought you were confused watching 4, I remember being confused as hell because I just caught the end of the first one, like the first original series movie. I was like,
"Oh god,
what the hell is happening?" This bald chick and that dude from Seventh Heaven doing shit,
and the mother from Seventh Heaven's in 4.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the actor who wakes up Sulu in 6. Oh,
wakes up Sulu in 6. Oh, God damn it! I know his name. Christian Slater.
Christian Slater. There we go.
Well, sir, they're failing to acknowledge hails from Starfleet. Why the hell am I in this movie?
Here's a cool rumor, though. Yeah, apparently they tried to get Tom Hanks to do one of the movies.
Really? Which one?
I think it was First Contact. I think he was going for the role of the professor guy.
Oh, Cochran.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know why he got turned down, though, because he went to James Cornwell, and James Cornwell just won an Oscar for Babe. Because Babe just, like, came out of nowhere. He was, like, do you remember Babe?
I remember Babe vividly.
That'll do pig. That was, like, the catchphrase for the year.
Yeah.
And then he won an Oscar for that fucking movie. I'm not saying the fucking movie Babe's, like, the worst movie ever. Like, I watched it as a kid. It was fine. I mean, they had, Chucky from Rugrats as the voice of Babe.
Yeah.
I can't remember the girl's name, but she's a phenomenal voice actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the one, and I'm just like, how does this start? So then, whenever the parlor would get another version of the VHS tapes from 1 through 6, I would grab that and watch it. So I think I went from I went 4, and then I watched Undiscovered Country 6. Because that came out at the same time as Next Generation, and I thought that was phenomenal.
Was that the one with Christopher Plummer with the eye patch that playing on?
Chang.
Yeah.
As General Chang. That's also, there was a cameo from Michael Dorn. He was actually a Worf in that, but he was like the grandfather of
Yeah,
Worf.
I love that. I wanted to bring that up earlier, but man. The Michael Dorn, I almost wanted to call it the Worf Dynasty.
Yeah.
Because there was they actually made reference to that in Enterprise, episodes I caught, where Archer was in a slave mine and he was with Worf's great grandfather. Yeah, he was. There was some. I can't remember the full extent of the episode, but yeah, Archer was brought to the same exact courtroom as First Contact, Undiscovered Country, and then he gets sent to Rua Pente, which is the slave mine. Funny thing, did you know Rua Pente was supposed to show up in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movie? Oh, it was because there's deleted scenes where Nero and his crew. The reason that they don't go, that they just weren't around for 25 years during Kirk and Spock's, growing upness. After Thor, it's Chris Hemsworth. It's Thor. Yeah. It's where Kirk's dad.
Kirk's dad is Thor.
Kirk's dad, the god of thunder.
Yeah. So Thor launches the Kelvin. Why a ship has one nacelle, I'll never understand. Anyways, he launches the Kelvin into Nero's ship.
Yeah.
And in the regular cut of the movie, it just floats, and everyone gets away in shuttlecrafts. In deleted scenes, Klingon battle cruisers are decloaking and taking them hostage, or taking them prisoner. They are actually stuck on Rua Pente for 25 years. It's only after they escape, get back their ship, and leave that sets up for the next event where they find Spock and all that stuff. And that's actually where they introduce the Klingon helmets. Yeah. They're basically they're Uruk-hai helmets, but they've got the Klingon turtle thing on it, just to kind of give the excuse of, okay, this is why we don't have cranial ridges, because they still had that genetic thing that happened in Enterprise. But the funny thing is that it's lucky that they didn't do it, because it would have pissed off Trekkies. Because there's scenes of Nero on Rua Pente, but there's no snow anywhere, and they're all shirtless. I'm just like, had Abrams actually put this in? Trekkie?
Oh, yeah.
Continuity error! I watched the movie good! It's just like, why are you not freezing your ass off?
Yeah, I think the red matter thing was enough to make people shit their pants, but that would have sent them over the edge. Yeah. So for me, for original, it was 4, 6... Then I watched 2 and I was blown away because Wrath of Khan is so great. And then I found that the director's cut where they laid that crewman that dies and Scotty loses it because that's his sister's brother or son or whatever. His nephew.
Yeah, it's his nephew. 3 was weird because I never had a physical copy of it because it was on TV and I asked my uncle to tape it, but he screwed up the recordings because he's the one that's like, okay, I don't want to put commercials in, so I'll pause the recording and then come back. But he completely skipped over the fight between the Enterprise and the Bird of Prey. So I was just like, we're sitting duck. I'm like, what happened? And I will agree with everyone that Star Trek 1 is the motionless picture. I was so goddamn bored. I'm like, yes, 2001: The Space Odyssey was technical and visual marvel. You don't need to rip it off.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, Space Odyssey is not Trek. Trek is about... well, Jesus. There's so many people who talked about it before. You know what I'm talking about. You probably saw it, too. If you're listening to this, you saw it. I mean, I'm sorry. You probably saw it.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't, you know why you're not watching it.
Yeah, the part that gets me the worst about Star Trek 1 is just... It takes them 15 minutes to get from the station to inside the Enterprise. It's like, I get it. You're it's not on a wheelbarrow and you don't have to, block out the wires. You can do this nice pan shot, but you have to do it for 15 fucking minutes.
The worst part is they actually wanted to spin off the new crew into its own show. That in an alternate universe could have been TNG. Like, the dad from Seventh Heaven could have been Captain What's-His-Face.
The thing, though, is that they actually were planning on making a second series way before the movie. And the girl who was the bald alien with the diamond, and she kept saying, V'ger, V'ger. She was actually supposed to be in that. It was going to be called Star Trek Phase 2.
Yeah.
And it was just going to be like, here's the Enterprise, but we got a new crew. Everyone else is retired. Maybe they'll come back. Maybe not. We don't know. But I think they made the movie first to be like, let's test the waters first. It's like, okay, are people still interested in Star Trek? Yeah. Okay, now let's take out one of the best villains from the series and make him, like, even more sadistic. I was trying to explain this to that guy at work who said Wrath of Khan sucks, and I'm just like, you don't understand the nuance of it. It's the fact that this is one of Kirk's greatest villains, and they're never in the same room at the same time. They're either looking at each other through a view screen, or they're yelling at each other through a communicator.
The nuance in that was just brilliant. Like you said, they're never in the same room together, and I think it's better because you know that Khan is physically way more dominant than an aging Kirk.
Yeah.
Like, let's face it, if they were in a room together, you know Kirk would try to punch him.
Yeah. You know he's that powerful because in the new one, Admiral RoboCop goes searching for him.
Well, it's funny you bring up in Star Trek Into Darkness because we actually get to see a literal example of why it would have been a bad idea to put Kirk and Khan in the same room, because Kirk would try to beat the shit out of him and it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And even you know what you know how one-sided fights are like. You know, it's boring. So putting them on a level playing field in space and playing like strategies against one another, I think that's where the movie really, really shines.